Start after saying Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Today, inshallah, as we discussed, we start a new topic, which is the topic of mudud. So that is page 154 in the book, inshallah. So sharing my screen. Good. Okay, so on the subject of mudud, if you read from the first page, as always, we start with the linguistic definition. So the linguistic definition of mad is coming from the word madda, madda, and madda means excessed, right? So increased or amplified, let's say. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, يمددكم ربكم يمددكم ربكم. So the word mad is used there when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He will increase you. So when you make mad for something, then you increase it. But in the applied definition, the lengthening it's the lengthening of the sound with one of the three mad letters and the two lean letters. So we'll discuss what are these two, inshallah, shortly. The letters of mad and lean are, the first one is the alif sakina, the waw sakina, and the ya sakina. That which precede them is a letter of the similar haraka. So if you talk about nu, hi, ha. So this word summarizes the three letters of mad. The waw, which is preceded by a dhamma, the ya, which is preceded by a kasra, and the alif, which is preceded by a fatha, which can't come otherwise. These are what we call the three letters of mad. Why? Because they have the ability to be prolonged, these three letters. They are also called the letters of softness, huruful lin, right? Because they are emitted lengthily and softly with no exaggeration. The two letters of lean, so we said there are three letters of mad, alif, fatha before, waw, dhamma before, ya, kasra before. The two letters of lean are waw and ya that have sukun, and that are preceded by a fatha, right? So not the ya with a kasra and the waw with a dhamma. Both of them are preceded by a fatha. The examples are the word qawl, yawm, quraysh, wal-layl. So if you say qawl, waw, sakin, but before it no dhamma, before it fatha. And the second word yawm, same thing, waw sukun, before it fatha. Then you have quraysh, ya sukun, and before it fatha. And al-layl, ya sukun, and before it fatha. The alif is not here because the alif with a normal fatha before it is a letter of mad, and there is no alif that comes with a kasra or a dhamma before it. So these five letters now, the three letters of mad and the two letters of lean, are the subject of our research now. Now, the types of mad in Arabic language and Quran are of two types. The first type is what we call natural. The second one, which is the secondary. The natural, which is the primary, is majad with two haraka. It's always a short mad. And that's why we call it natural. The other one, the secondary, is not natural. That's why we have to make it longer than two haraka. Right? So that's why sometimes people are confused with natural and not natural. The natural is only short two haraka that happens by nature. The other one, the secondary, is something that we increase longer than the two haraka because of one of two reasons. Either sukun or hamza. Either sukun or hamza. These are the two main reasons for mad. If you talk about the natural mad, this happens when you have alif with fatha before it, Waw with dhamma before it, and uh, ya with kasra before it, right? So in these three cases, we make the med short two haraka med, like this. القارعة مالك يوقنون داوود الرحيم يستحيي. So all of these are natural med. Um, so there's one subject I skipped, page 156. I think that's more appropriate to discuss before natural med. Sorry. So page 106 in the book, 506 in the book, talks about some definitions. The first definition is the measure of the med. The unit of measuring med is called haraka. So let's discuss that one first. So what happens is a haraka is the period of time that's needed to pronounce a voweled letter, right? With a fatha, dhamma, or kasra. Any haraka would do. So if you say ba, that's one haraka, one count. If you say ba, that's two count. If you say ba, that's three count. So on and so forth. So that's when we say make the med one haraka, make the med two haraka. It's the time it takes to pronounce a voweled letter. And we said before, if you remember, we said voweled letters, they all take the same time to pronounce in the same recitation mode. And that's applicable for fatha, dhamma, and kasra. So ba, bu, bi, same timing. Ba, bu, bi, same time. Now, in terms of speeds, we have 5 different measures. The first one, we call it shortening or al-qasr, right? This is 2 counts, 2 haraka. So if you say ba, that's 2 haraka, right? That's a med. That's longer than ba only, right? So when you say 2 haraka, it's ba, right? If you say nuhiha, u, that's the 2 haraka. The second one is what we call fuwayq al-qasr, or a little above shortening. This is the length of up to 3 haraka, 3 counts. So ba. There is also another one which is called the moderation, at-tawassut. This is the count of 4 haraka, right? 4 haraka. And then you have fuwayq al-tawassut, which is a little above moderation. So that's 5 haraka. And then you have the prolongation, which is also called saturation, al-ishba', al-tul. So this one is to lengthen to the maximum, which is 6 counts. 3 times the natural mid of 2 haraka, 3 times. Now, it's important to attend to the attention in the page. The length of the count and subsequently the length of the mid is proportional to the speed of recitation, right? So if you're reading a tahqiq, or if you're reading tadwir, or if you're reading hadr, the length of the med would have to comply with that as well. So the counts, the 4 counts of tahqiq, for example, would be physically longer than the 4 counts of tadwir, although they are both 4. But because tahqiq is a slower recitation, so the 4 counts will take longer time. Same thing applies between the tadwir and hadr. The 4 counts of tadwir are longer than the 4 counts of the hadr. And there is a panel on page number 158 to explain that, because when you do faster recitation, you're stretching everything, right? So you can't say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. You can't do this. You can't make the med not proportional with the speed of the recitation. I had to exaggerate this example just to show you what it means. So it has to be compliant with the speed. The overall is comprehensible. Now, for our research sake, We will focus only on couple of speeds. So the three counts, for example, even the five counts, we will not put too much weight on them because nobody can actually be that good in terms of controlling them. But the two, four, six are more easy to control. Maybe the five we will keep it. We'll see how it goes, inshallah. يعني. But these are differences of opinion, which we all have like theory to back it up. So we already discussed the natural med, and the other example we have in the book is قالوا يا موسى قالوا يا موسى. All of these are natural med. Is that one easy, the natural med, guys? Anyone has any problems with it? Or any questions, really? The common mistakes of the natural med is people don't give it the right timing. So what happens is it becomes اختلاس, right? اختلاس means stealing. So some people say قالوا يا موسى موسى موسى. You see the sa? It has to be موسى. The alif has to be long enough. Okay, we'll go to the second one, which is مد البدل. البدل. Badal means exchange. So if you give something to someone and then he'll give you something else or he change it for you, we call this exchangement. Exchangement.
No, I'm sorry. What was the term for stealing the net?
اختلاس.
جزاك الله.
اختلاس. Yeah. اختلاس means you're stealing a little bit of it. You know, you're keeping it for yourself. um, yeah, so المد we said مد البدل. مد البدل. Right? So مد البدل is, the definition is, there are different definitions, but the one that you could easily memorize, it's هو كل همز ممدود. كل همز ممدود. Right? So when you have the hamza itself gets stretched. How is that happening? That's happening when the hamza comes before the letter of mad. Before the letter of mad. Right? So the examples we have آمنوا. So the hamza, then the alif, and the alif has sukun and there's fatha before it, so the rule applies. So the alif is now harfu mad. We know that because it's sakin and before it there is fatha. And the fatha is actually on a hamza. That's why we know that this is maddul badal. The other example is utu, utu, right? So hamza before the waw, which is harful mad. The waw has sukun and before it there is dhamma on the hamza, so that's how we know that the waw is harfu mad. Imana, the ya, sukun, before it kasra, the kasra is on hamza, so we know this is badal. Adam, alif, sukun, fatha before it, the fatha is on the hamza, so we know that is badal. And so on and so forth. So the examples are more in the book. We have al-Quran, yura'un, al-khati'in, ra'a, ja'u, aba'i, so on and so forth. So why did we call it badal? Right? So that's the question. The book addresses that in page 229. And obviously, the main reason is that this is originally two hamzas, and one of the hamzas got exchanged to a letter of mad. Right? Why we're doing this is when you have two hamzas in Arabic language, you have to do something for the second one, especially if it's a sakin. So if you take the example of, we said 220, sorry, forgot the number, 228. 229. 229, right? 229 Ya Allah. Yeah. 229. It says that the meeting of two hamzas, the second of which is sakina, right? Uh, so because of the two hamzas, one of them is sakina, the Arabs don't do that, right? So instead of that, what they do is they change the second one to a harf mad of the same type. And that is what we call maddul badal, right? So the example of amanu, for example, originally it's amanu. The word utu, originally it's utu. And the word imanan, originally is i'manan. So i'manan is difficult to pronounce, utu is difficult to pronounce, and amanu is difficult to pronounce. That's why they changed it to exchange badal, exchange mad, badal mad. Amanu, imana, utu. That's why. However, there are some words where the med is the original, like the maddul badal is not because of that. It's not because of um, is not because of the hamza being changed. The examples of those are these words, right? Al-Quran, وجاءوا الخاطئين مسؤولا آمين, right? These ones, some people call it شبيه البدل. It's similar to the exchange, right? Because the hamza and the letter after it is naturally like this. It's not something that has been changed to match that. Some people actually don't consider this as associated with the natural med. So if you read the qira'ah of Imam Warsh, for example, he reads this with three faces. He reads it with short, he reads it with tawassut, and he reads it also with long. So he doesn't say amanu, he say amanu, and he say amanu. So he has the three modes. So that's why some people consider this med as not necessarily something that's associated with the natural med. However, we are considering that because for us, we are following the qira'ah of Imam Hafs and Asim, and Imam Hafs only considers two haraka counting for the exchange badal med. Any question on this one, brothers?
I didn't understand the last example you gave on things like Amin, Amin.
Yeah, so that's only in the qira'ah of Imam Warsh. And for him, he accepts that Maddul Badal is not associated with the natural mad, meaning he could make it longer than two counts. Um, so that's the reason for it. Is that clear, brother? Or?
Jazakallah. Couldn't find any notes on it in the book.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you for some reason. The sound is very low. Let me check if it's Teams.
Jazakallah.
Yeah, وإياكم إن شاء الله. وإياكم. I think it's from Zoom. Sorry, give me a second. Ya Allah. Not sure what's happening. The sound is not very clear. Maybe it's your side, brother Mazen. Okay, we'll go to the next med, inshallah. So the next med is what we call maddul iwad. Maddul iwad. That is the substitute med. Substitute med. This is, as the name implies, we are substituting something with a stretching. What is that thing that we are substituting for? Is the tanween. So sometimes we change the tanween to an alif, and this alif will be majad at two counts and it will be associated with the natural med. The examples are, if you say aliman hakima, if you stop on alima hakima sawa'a, so it's not the one before the hamza, it's after the hamza. Same thing with insha'a, shay'a, all of these. When you stop on the tanween, you change the tanween to alif, and we call this substitute med. Right? The only cases where we don't do it is if it was on a ta'ut ta'nith. So it's the example of the word shajara and the word jannah. If you stop on shajaratan, then you stop on shajarah. You don't say shajarata, right? You don't say shajarata. You don't do this. Or you don't say jannata. You say jannah. So you change the ta into a ha. And this also applies for the word ma and dua. Now these ones are tricky, sawa as well, insha as well. They are tricky because when they are written in the original Arabic language, the hamza was not written. So it used to be written as sawa, like this, sawa. And Arabs know when this comes, they will put the hamza after it, but they just pronounce it. They don't write it down. So that's why they never wrote the, after the tanween, the alif, similar to hakima. Like you see hakima, they didn't just put the tanween on the meme. They wrote the alif actually, right? But that alif, if you pronounce hakiman alima, aliman hakima, nobody pronounced that alif. That alif is just sitting there for the tanween, because if you don't pronounce the tanween and you stop on the word, then you have to pronounce it. They couldn't do the same thing with sawa'a and insha'a because of the hamza. So if the hamza was not written at that time, that means they'll have to put alif and another alif after it. So they put like two lines. They cannot write it down like this way. So that's why many people, when they stop on ma, they accidentally stop on it and say ma. You can't, right? This is if it has sukun or a fatha or a dhamma or kasra, that's fine. But if it has a tanween, then you have to substitute that tanween into an alif. You have to substitute that tanween to alif, even though it's not written after insha'an or sawa'an. You have to know that. You have to know when you change that to tanween, when you stop on it, the tanween will change to an alif. Apart from, as we said, the ta'ut ta'nith, the female ta. This female ta, if you stop on it, it changes into ha. It changes into ha. So these are the examples from page number 160 in the book, or everything that we discussed, right? The first one is the ha'ut ta'nith, right? Shajaratan, same thing. The second one is the ma'an, ma'a, insha'an, insha'a, right? That's what we discussed as well. And this one, they call it من قبيل مد العوض وليس مد بدل, right? This is not a badal. This is not a badal, because badal, now you look at it, you see the hamza and alif after it, so you think that it is badal. But no. Why? Because that alif is incidental. That alif is only there because of the tanween. If you don't do tanween, then you don't pronounce it. Now the other types of med. So these three ones that we said, مد العوض, مد البدل, مد البدل, مد العوض, and المد الطبيعي, right? مد البدل, مد العوض, and المد الطبيعي. These are all majid at two haraka, two counts. There is also another one which we'll come to it later. We call it الصلة الصغرى, الصلة الصغرى, or the small, the short connecting med. We will come to it later, inshallah. That's also part of the natural med family, two haraka. But before that, we'll go to المد الجائز المنفصل. المد الجائز المنفصل. Separated allowed mad. Separated allowed mad. Now, the word separated, it means that the two letters of mad, are in two separate words, which means there's a letter of mad in the end of a word, and there is a hamza on the word after. The examples are بما أنزل قالوا آمنا وفي أنفسكم. Right? So why we said it's munfasil, separated, it's because these two conditions for the med, the letter of med and the hamza, which comes after it. So now we already started things which are longer than two haraka. Yeah. Um, um, the reason for it now in this case is the hamza, right? There's a letter of med and hamza comes after it, so you make it long. They call it jaiz, allowed med, because there is a dispute between the qurra in terms of its length and in the duration as well. The qira of Imam Hafs from the way of Shatibiya, the one that we're reading, is 4 to 5 haraka, either 4 or 5. However, Imam Hafs himself, from other ways, the way of Shatibi or the way of Tayyibatul Nashr, for example, it's measured in 2 haraka. So it's qasr. He reads it short. That's why sometimes you hear people reading the Quran and in this type of mad they make it short. That's because they are reading in the qira'ah of Imam Hafs from another chain of narration, from the chain of narration of Imam al-Jazari, from the طيبة of they call it طريق الفيل. One of the طرق is طريق الفيل. So don't get confused if you hear people making it short, because there is a differences of opinion on it. Now here there's something very important to mention, that sometimes the separation is a natural separation, or like a true separation, as in the word bima unzil, right? There's a alif here, there's a hamza in a separate word, very clear. قُوا أنفسكم في أنفسكم, simple, right? But sometimes it's implied, so there is a ruling for it. Like the word يا أيها, right? It looks like it's in one word, but it's actually, these two are separate words. It's actually يا أيها, but it's written in the Mus'haf as one word. So that's why this is still a separated med, right? A separated med, but it's written as it's in one word, which means the hukum of it, the rule of it is, now we read it with 4 or 5 haraka, but if you read the other qira'at of shortening, they read it shortening. Same thing with the word ha'ula. Ha'ula is actually 2 words. Ha'ula. But it's written in the Mus'haf as one word. Ha'ula. So that's why this med is a separated med. It's not the other type of med, which is the med al-wajib al-muttasil, the connected compulsory. This is the separated optional or allowed. So that's why the word هؤلاء, some people read it هؤلاء. If you hear that, that's okay. For them, that's okay. Because the first med is a separated med. The second one is not. The second one is part of the same word, which is أولاء.
So you said that the separated allowed
Your,
med
your
was
voice is very low, brother.
You said that the separated allowed med was optional?
Yes, it's optional but in it's different qira'at. So in our case, the qira'ah we are studying is 4 to 5 haraka from the way of Shatibiya. But other qira'at, they do it 2 haraka, yes. Now there is a reason for this. There is a reason for this, right? The reason for this is some people look at it and say, no, these are 2 separate words, so we're not going to take this into consideration because it's 2 separate words. Yeah? That's why for them, it's 2 haraka only, natural mid. Some people say, no, but the hamza is still there, even though the hamza is in a separate word. So we will consider this as the connected mid, where the hamza is in the same word. That's the differences of opinion, yeah? You understand that, brother?
So, but in our
recitation, it is not considered optional. You have to do it as 4 to 5.
Yeah, we have to do it وتوسط, yes. 4
Okay.
حركة إن شاء الله. And I will, my school of thought is basically we stick to 4. The 5 is something that you cannot measure. So لازم will be 6 حركة. And then جائز, واجب, and مد العارض للسكون. We consider all of them 4. Make everyone life easy. That's how I do it. We'll come to it inshallah shortly. Now we're talking about الواجب المتصل. So this is it. This is the med of the this is the wajib means required, and متصل means connected. And as the words imply, connected means it's in the same word, as in وجاءكم النذير سوء العذاب هنيئا بما هاؤم السماء هؤلاء. Right? So you see all of them. I made sure that the timing is the same for all of them. So that's the first part, متصل, it's in the same word. The second part is we say it is required. Why are we saying required? Because all of the Qurra agree that it has to be long. None of the Qurra says that this med could be lower than 4 حركة. Everyone is 4 and 5 and so on and so forth. So in the Qira'ah of Imam Hafs, we also say, from the way of Shatibiyya, we say 4 or 5 حركة. Now, if you turn to the book, page number 162, this one talks about a couple of very important rules. The first one is saying that the moderation, the tawassut, of the separated med occurs only with moderation tawassut of the joint med. And the length, a little more than moderation in the separated med, occurs only if its counterpart is a joint. Basically, what we are saying is the joint med compared to the separated med is a stronger med. So if you make the separated 4, then the muttasil, the joint has to be 4 or above. And if the other one is 5, then the other one is 5 or above. So basically what we're saying what I'm saying to you guys is that if you do one of them 4, you do the other one 4, and then you make everyone life easy. Yeah. There's only one specific word, which is, we are putting it here, is the word ha'um, right? Ha'um. This is still considered muttasil, although it looks like ha'ula, like the first med of ha'ula, but this is not ha'ul ishara, right? This is not something that for the tanbih. It is actually original part of the word. So that's why we're considering this as muttasil, as connected. The sign of all of these types of mudud in the mushaf is a wave like this. That is the original reason for it, is people used to write med, mim dal, as you see in the book, page 163. You used to say mim dal, mim dal, mim dal means mid, make it longer here. And then over time, the mid became like a wave like this, like an eyebrow, right? Some people asked me before if this sign is longer or shorter. That has no meaning, no significance, right? It's just calligraphy. So if they make the med sign longer or shorter, that doesn't mean you make it longer or shorter in the pronunciation. The rules is what you learned from here. The drawing of it is just a calligraphy thing. Now, inshallah, we'll talk about maddu silah, and the one we skipped in the beginning. Now, the reason why we skipped it is because it comes in 2 versions. One is called the sila sughra, right? The lesser connecting. And the other one is called sila kubra, the greater connecting. The lesser connecting is the one which is associated with the natural med. Its sign in the Mus'haf is a small waw like this, or a small inverted ya like this. This only happens after this ha. This ha is, we call it ha of dhamir. Right? The ha of the object, I think. Object or subject of dhamir. The pronoun. The pronoun ha, which represents the masculine third person singular in English. So if you say, for example, إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. If you don't do this, med, it becomes إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. Right? So some people say إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. No, these are med. When you write like this, that is med. Two haraka. إِنَّهُ عَلَى رَجْعِهِ لَقَادِرٌ. بلى إن ربه كان به بصيرا. Like this. So that is the lesser connecting. The difference between it and the greater connecting one is that the greater connecting, there's a hamza after that. So not ayn, not lam, there's a hamza. When there is a hamza, what's happening here now, you are thinking about the separated med. Yeah, remember the separated med? We have a letter of med in the end of one word, and we have a hamza on the other word. This is very similar to this. So that's why we accompany this one with the separated med. It becomes like ما له أخلده. Right? به إلا كل وما يكذب به إلا كل. Like this. Yeah. So the timing we said for the lesser connecting is 2 haraka. For the greater connecting is 4 to 5 haraka, similar to the separated med. Now the important thing to remember is that this type of med only happens when you are connecting. That's why we call it connecting med. So the lesser and the greater, both of them are connecting, which means they only happens when you're connecting that word with the word after it. If I stop on this word, I don't say innahu, or I don't say rabbahu. I say bala inna rabbah, like this. Innah malah, or something like that, right? Malah, I made that alif too long. The second one is from the riwayah of Imam Hafs, there are 2 words which are exempt from this rule. The first one is the word in Surah Al-Furqan when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying وَيَخْلُدْ فِيهِ مُهَانًا. Right? فِيهِ مُهَانًا. So this one, what happens in it is that the ruling is not applying here. The ruling is what? The ruling is that there is a waw. What is that? So I got confused with this one. Yeah, so there's a sukoon on the letter before the ha. We said, you see, ma lahu bihi, all of these, there's a haraka before the ha. Yeah, innahu, everything has a haraka. But in this one, fi, if you stop on it, it becomes mad'ar al-sukun. But if you don't, fihi muhana, it has to be pronounced like this. But what we do is we apply the rule to it. And that is part of the requirement of Imam Hafs. The second one is the rule applies to it, so it matches the conditions. However, there is no silah in it. There's no med in it. That word in Surah Al-Zumar, which is يَرْضَهُ لَكُمْ. Right? you don't say يرضه لكم, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this one has its own qira'ah, and in the other one has its qira'ah. So these are special cases for Imam Hafs. There is also the last comment, inshallah, I think, or one of the last comments, is that there is the word هذه, which is the ismu ishara. It's the a tool that's used to point to things. هذه means this, right? The Arabs treat the ha and هذه the same way they treat the ha of the pronoun regarding the existence and non-existence of the connecting med. And the sign for it in the Mus'haf is clear, right? So if you see هذه ناقة الله, هذه بضاعتنا, right? Same thing with إن هذه أمتكم. So this is a greater connecting because of the Hamza after it. In the book, there is a special example, which is the word هذه الشجرة, right? Now, why there is no mid here is because of the sukun that's happening after the ha, which is in the word الشجرة, right? So you can't say هذه الشجرة. You can't say that, yeah? So that is a special case. There's also on page number 166 in the book two additional comments. The first one is number 5, is saying that the letter ha in the following words and their counterparts is not a pronoun. Rather, it is the posing ha sect, which Arabs add to the end of some words in order to clarify the harakah of the last letter of the word. According to Hafs from Asim, it is read with sukun, both joining and stopping. The examples are يتسنه, اقتدي, كتابية, حسابية, مالية, سلطانية, ماهية. Right? These words, there is ha in the end. This is not ha or dhamir. It's not a pronoun ha. So that's why if you're connecting with the next word, there are special rules for it. So if you say, for example, ما ليهلك عني سلطانية, right? So there's normally you stop on it. If you continue, it becomes ما ليهلك, ما ليهلك. So we'll get to this inshallah in the end of the book. There is a section on these special words cases. Also, the 6th point is saying the letter ha in the following words and their counterparts is part of the word itself. So there is no pronoun here. Wajh. Wajh means face. This ha is original in the word wajh. وجه أبي فواكه كثيرة لم ينته لنسفعا بالناصية. So فواكه, ينته, وجه, all of these are natural ha. Page 167, and we'll finish with that inshallah, shows you the symbol of the Madd al-Sila in the Quran. The lesser sila is there's a small waw or a smaller inverted ya. The greater connecting is a smaller waw with a med on it and a smaller inverted ya with a med on it. That's how you know you make it longer. So it's very simple. Yani if you just look at it, you know exactly what to do, right? And I think we'll stop here because the next subject for next week is Maddul Lazim. Al-Maddul Lazim, the compulsory mid. Right? So we'll stop here, inshallah, and take a couple of questions before we close.
Sheikh, quick question.
Yes, brother.
Please go one slide back.
Yes.
Yeah. So here, the word haula'i, it has both the mudud. Does it have munfasil and muttasil?
Yes, munfasil in the beginning, muttasil in the end.
So this can happen.
Yes.
Okay. Jazakallah. That's it.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. So that's why this one in our قراءة we read it هؤلاء, right? But you might hear someone sometimes say هؤلاء like this because they count the first one as منفصل and they only give it two حركة.
So I have a question on point 5 from page 166,
Yes.
where you mentioned that it's the ha is opposing that Arabs add to the end of some words in order to clarify the haraka. I'm not
Yes.
sure how. Can you explain to me how this clarifies the haraka of the last letter?
Yeah, so if you say يتسن, then you say يتسنه. You see the shadda with the noon فتحة?
I can tell the difference, but
Yes,
it
that's how they
seems
make it. That's how they make it. This is an accent of some Arabs at that time, which was endorsed in the Quran. So if you say iqtadi, and then you say iqtadi, see how that kasra became a little bit stronger kasra here.
mm,
Now
okay.
kitabi, kitabiyah. Yeah, that's how they make it. They make it emphasized, you know.
Jazakallah.
وإياكم إن شاء الله. Any more questions, brother? Give me something tricky. The tricky will come next week, because we will study when the two mids meet, right? When one location you have multiple types of mid are meeting, which one you're gonna consider? So that is inshallah the subject for the next week, alongside with the lazim mid, inshallah ta'ala. So if there is no more question, we will close here. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة
وعليكم
الله.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.